On today's Locked On Thunder podcast, it's time for Jeremy Sochan's player profile and projection. How good is his defense? Can it combat his lack of shooting offensively? And how would he fit in with the modern NBA and the Oklahoma City Thunder rebuild? All coming up on today's Locked On Thunder podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day.
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. I am your host, media member, and editor-in-chief over at thunderousintentions.com. Rylan Stiles. You can follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at LOThunderPod. Email the show, LOThunderPod@gmail.com. On today's show, we have another 2022 NBA draft profile and projection, giving you all you need to know about a possible Thunder prospect. Today's prospect is Jeremy Sochan out of the University of Baylor, a very fun one, a nice option at 12, and some nice personal info that ties into Oklahoma as well. So a lot to get into. Let's start with the overview for Jeremy Sochan. He is 6'9", comes in at 230, wingspan 7 feet tall. His age is 19 at the draft. School is, of course, Baylor. And this guy is just an elite defender. From the perimeter, he's very switchable. He has a ton of strengths and weaknesses. So let's get into his strengths, his weaknesses, personal info, synergy stats, availability, ceiling and floor, NBA comps, and how he would fit specifically with the Thunder if they were to draft him. So let's start with his strengths. Elite defense. He's great on ball. He's great off ball. He's great at rotating. He's great at switching. He is perfect for the modern NBA. He can switch 1 through 5. I really believe that. And depending on who the 5 is, he won't get totally exposed down low. This is a physical player that likes to put his nose into it and likes to play a physical style of basketball. And we mentioned how tall he is. He's listed as taller than Isaiah Roby at 6'9". Isaiah was listed at 6'8". And he's listed the same weight as Isaiah Roby at 230. But even though he's the same weight listed as Isaiah Roby, he plays a bit more physical than Isaiah Roby does. So if you were living with Isaiah Roby playing the center position, and worried about how he got switched on to 2s or 3s or even 1s in the NBA, Jeremy Sochan can I think play a better center spot in the NBA defensively, although it's not kind of where you want him to play, obviously, than Isaiah Roby, but also exceed at defending guards and wing players. So that's just kind of a comparison that you can kind of relate to more as a fan watching the Thunder, seeing Roby's size and then seeing Sochan play a more physical style. I think that he's a really good dribbler for his size, an awesome passer, both in the half-court set, but also as an outlet passer. And his outlet passing is born from his rebounding, and he's a very, very good rebounder. And that's where I think that the Thunder would really like him, because the Thunder have made it clear since hiring Mark that they want a very versatile team. They want a team that can play make 1 through 5, and they want to be able to be a team that can grab the board and go. Anyone can grab a rebound, and everyone can just push the pace and push the tempo and then spark transition and then spark an advantage for the Thunder. I think that, whenever you look at him as a rebounder, it's not as though these rebounds just kind of fell into his lap. He's a really great at boxing out and knowing where to be and understanding how to put a body on somebody. And that creates rebounds not only for him, but it creates rebounds for his teammates. And that's a big deal, because rebounds equal possessions, of course. And so you want to generate more possessions than the other team to give yourself the best opportunity to win. And so he can do that both as a rebounder himself, as a guy who can box out, put bodies on guys, and let others come clean up the mess as a rebounder. So it's a very tantalizing skill trait that he has, this defense, rebounding, passing ability from Jeremy Sochan. And I think that his shooting mechanics are there. Like, he has a really high release point. He's not going to get blocked a ton whenever he's shooting. It's just that the results aren't there. And that's the big worry. We'll talk about that as well in his weaknesses. But the shooting mechanics wise, I'm not sure what all you'd need to change. I'm not an NBA shot doctor, That'd be up to Mike Wilkes and the Thunder and everyone else who will work with these rookies and try to get them up to speed in the NBA. But mechanics-wise, nothing glaring jumps out because of his high release point and things of that nature. But one thing that I do like about him is that he's very creative at getting to the rim. He can draw fouls, and he's very creative getting to the basket and getting fouled and taking that contact. The problem is, as we're going to talk about in his weaknesses right now, that's not always a great outcome for him because he shot just 29% from the three-point line this season. And when we talk about getting to the line and attacking the rim, he shot just 58% at the free throw line. And why is that number so important? Well, when you're looking at guys who shot poorly in college and you're trying to project, can they become a shooter in the NBA landscape? The number you're looking for is 70% from the line. If they can shoot 70+% from the line, even if they shot 30 or below from three or 35 and below from three in college, you still feel confident, and eventually that shooting will level out and the shooting touches there to where they can become a good shooter at the next level. So it's a double whammy here for Sochan, who not only didn't shoot well from college at three, but didn't shoot well from college at the free throw line. And so that does not leave you a ton of optimism there that he can turn it around as a shooter. So to me, whenever you're evaluating Jeremy Sochan, you have to evaluate him as if that shooting will not come. And then if it does come, it of course makes him a lot better. But you have to evaluate him and be comfortable taking him as if he's never going to become a plus 30% three-point shooter or 35% three-point shooter in the NBA. And, if you do that evaluation and based off of those merits, then he's still good enough to pick, then so be it. And you draft him and you kind of move forward with him. And then again, if you can bring that shooting around, great. But really, the shooting is the only knock on him. I love his playmaking. I love his defense. I love his rebounding. I love his savviness and his kind of ability to be in the right spot at the right time and also get his teammates in the right spot at the right time and be a leader on that end of the floor. Obviously, you're not going to step into the NBA and be a leader in most cases, but it's clear that, after a few seasons and after getting more acclimated with his team, that he's a guy who can communicate well on the floor defensively and get guys in the right spots and, of course, make up for whenever things go awry. Defensively, the only other knock on him, and to me, the only other knock on him, period, besides the shooting, is the fact that he's kind of a riverboat gambler defensively at times, which most elite defenders are in college. Like, they're going to take chances. They're going to get not bored, but they're going to kind of feel as though they can go shut down anybody in college and go take a chance and make it happen. Of course, if you're lunging in the passing lanes, that leaves you susceptible to being cut on or being blown by whenever the pass gets through you in the passing lanes. Stuff like that can kind of rear its ugly head for him in the college setting. When you're in the NBA, you've got to make sure that your risks are very calculated and that you are sure that you can do something, even if it's not a steal. You got to be sure you can at least deflect the ball or disrupt the action to not get totally exposed like that. And I think that that's just kind of something that's going to be easily coachable for him because he's such a smart player, because he's such, he has such awareness on the floor that I think that he's going to be able to kind of get that quirk or negative trait out of his game really quickly at the NBA level. So Jeremy Sochan's a guy that I really like at 12. And we're going to talk about kind of what his range is for the NBA landscape, right? We're going to go through where these mock drafts have him landing. But for me, I really like Jeremy Sochan as an option at 12. And he's part of why I feel like the Thunder don't desperately need to trade up in this draft. I know trading up is fun. I know going to the trade machine is fun, and it's awesome to go see what you could do to get pick 7 or 8 or 9. But Jeremy Sochan's in that group to where whenever I've been saying somebody's got to fall, somebody that's going to be extremely talented that you're going to be very excited about is going to be available at 12. Whether it's Johnny Davis, whether it's Jeremy Sochan, whether it's AJ Griffin, whether it's, whoever. Bennedict Matherin's fallen before in mock drafts. Whoever falls, Dyson Daniels is going to be a very fun, exciting player, and Jeremy Sochan adds into that as well. So that's why I'm very comfortable with the Thunder just staying put at 12 and not necessarily giving up additional assets to go move up from the 12th overall pick. So that's where we're at in the strengths and the weaknesses for Jeremy Sochan. He has a good personal story, also synergy numbers and availability from around the NBA, plus how he fits with the Thunder, what's his ceiling and his floor in the NBA, and so much more, all coming up on today's Locked On Thunder podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. But I do want to tell you right now about our good friends over at Built Bar. Built Bar is a fantastic protein bar that tastes just like a candy bar. Go to builtbar.com. Use the promo code LOCKED15. Get 15% off of your next order. I want to say right now to go check out the caramel brownie bars, which are available right now at built.com. They taste fantastic, just like it sounds like a caramel brownie. What more could you ask for? I love the cookies and cream option. Also love the new birthday cake puffs option. There's so many great protein bars at built.com that taste like candy bars. They're great pre-workout or post-workout or even as a meal replacement or a snack. So go check them out today. You can go check them out with 130 calories, 17 grams of protein, only 4 grams of sugar. You're going to want to get your hands on these Built bars that are covered in 100% real chocolate on the outside. Make sure you check it out today, built.com. Promo code LOCKED15, 15% off of your next order. Built.com. Promo code LOCKED15, 15% off of your next order. Make sure you go check them out today. We are back on the Locked On Thunder Podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. I want to tell you right now that you can do us a huge favor. That's right, you can do us a huge favor. We're putting together a survey to learn more about our listeners, like you, to make your Locked On podcast even better. This is your opportunity to tell us what you like and don't like about Locked On Podcast. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey right now to get started. You will not want to wait any more longer because, trust me, it will not take very long at all. Everyone that completes a survey can qualify for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Ticketmaster gift cards. To take our audience survey, go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey. That's lockedonpodcast.com/survey. Thank you so much for your help. Also, of course, go check out Locked On NBA and Locked On NBA Big Board after that fantastic Game 1 of the NBA Finals that will go down as an instant classic. That was a very fun game, and the Celtics pulled off the upset in Game 1. Go check the Locked On NBA Today podcast over there today and see what they're saying about it. But personal info on Jeremy Sochan. He's from Guyman, Oklahoma. Both parents played college ball at Oklahoma University, and he dyes his hair all kind of weird, funny colors that I think would be very endearing in Oklahoma City, just because, we love shticks in OKC. Every fan base loves shticks. We love our guys doing a thing that we can kind of say is our little thing that only we get to experience 82 games. So seeing how many times he dyes his hair in a season would be awesome. Seeing what color his hair dye is going to be on draft night is going to be awesome. So I think that he has a personality that can really thrive in OKC. And also, of course, being from Guyman and having his parents both having roots in Oklahoma, that can be good down the line. If he does become this superstar, defensive stalwart, then maybe he gives OKC, more credence after these 9 years are up on his rookie deal. As a note, he's working out with the Thunder on Saturday. So Saturday we'll see kind of the Thunder feedback on him. The Thunder are going to work out a ton of players. They're going to work out every player in the draft almost. Remember, the Thunder do not put out any info, so the workout tracker on Thunder's intentions that I update, that's only from what's been made public from agents and players themselves on social media, stuff like that. So, it's only like 14 players deep right now, I think, but the Thunder have worked out more than 14 players, I can assure you. It's just that they do not release those workouts the way that the Hornets do or the Pacers do. And I think that the Thunder are kind of in the right for not releasing them. I mean, why would you reveal your hand if you can help it? So I do know there's 2 names on my list that are not public. So there is at least 2 guys that aren't out there that the Thunder have worked out. Nonetheless, Jeremy Sochan gets his workout on Saturday. Keon Elliott had his second workout yesterday with OKC, so that's cool that he got 2 workouts in OKC. Kind of shows you some interest there. I will say workouts don't mean a ton, but I did want to update you on that with Jeremy Sochan's player profile and projection that he is being looked at by OKC. Now, let's dive into his synergy numbers. These are kind of advanced numbers for scouting purposes. He ranks in the 91st percentile defensively in the country, 91st percentile in overall defense. His matchups only produce 0.6 points per game. His matchup shot 30% from the floor. Whenever Jeremy Sochan guards you, you shoot 30% from the floor. Those are elite defensive numbers. Elite. Offensively, Well, his offensive game's not great. It was still in the 60th percentile of the country, and he did have elite qualities such as cutting, and he's an elite cutter offensively, over a point per possession whenever he's in cutting scenarios, which ranks him in the 93rd percentile. That's incredibly good numbers for him as a cutter. Again, can that jump shot come around to make him more of a two-level scorer at the rim than at the 3-point line? We'll see. And of course, he'll have to improve his free throw line numbers as well. But those are the synergy numbers that stand out for Jeremy Sochan. And of course, you can just go look up his highlights and everything to see how great he is defensively. He's a player. He's a player that makes defense pop, and that's very hard to do. Defense, I think, is one of the most misunderstood portions of the game of basketball. I think that it's difficult to see good defense with the untrained eye, but Jeremy Sochan's a guy who makes defense loud and makes it noticeable what he's doing on that end of the floor. Here's his availability from around the NBA, of course, mock drafts and big boards. The Ringer has him at 8, ESPN at 15, The Athletic has him at 9, Bleacher Report has him at 12, CBS has 3 different kind of people ranking him. So CBS has 10, 11, and 9 for his ranking. As NBC has him at 13, DraftNet very low at 18, Tankathon at 11. I have him at 12, and then Mavs Draft, our weekly guest, has him all the way down at 22. So his range is from anywhere from 22 to 8, and so you can kind of see where it comes down to his jump shot, his ceiling and floor. His ceiling to me is an elite defender that just glues a starting lineup together and makes a few all defensive teams, and is just kind of in that role of a Marcus Smart, Draymond Green type that is really a catalyst for your defense and still can play serviceable offensively as a playmaker, as a rebounder in Draymond Green's case. I think that that's kind of a nice comp for him. And Kevin O'Connor of The Ringer says he has shades of Ben Simmons, Draymond Green, and Aaron Gordon. I really like the Ben Simmons comp for Jeremy Sochan. His floor, though, is if his shot never comes around and his physicality doesn't necessarily translate to the NBA and he's just a 0 offensively, then he's like a 9th, 10th man that's based on matchups in terms of how often he plays or if you need your defensive stopper in this certain scenario. So that's kind of where you're at with Jeremy Sochan in terms of his fit with around the NBA, like where he's going to be available at, his ceiling, his floor. This is a guy that I think is worthy of the 12th overall pick. I think that if he's there at 12 and the Thunder stay pat at 12, this is going to be a good value play because, again, I really believe he has a good shot of being a Draymond Green type of player, and you need those guys. Now, granted, you can't build your team around too many non-shooters, and as of right now, Josh Giddey's a non-3-point shooter. As of right now, Jeremy Sochan's a non-3-point shooter, but still, I think that Jeremy Sochan can be a really good player in this league and work around that, and has traits that can factor in. And of course, he seems like a very thundery guy, as a very switchable, versatile player on defense and offense, and with his playmaking that can allow him to rip boards down and go the length of the floor and just put pressure on the opposition with their tempo and with their speed. So I think that Sochan fits in with OKC, but we'll dive deeper into what the Thunder feel about that and how it goes and correlates with the Thunder specifically coming up. But first, I want to tell you right now, my good friends over at the Locked On NBA Big Board Show. Make sure you check them out today. It's Rafael Barlow, who's one of the best in the business, who travels around the world to scout these talents, hosting it with our good friend Mavs Draft over there on Tuesdays, and a rotating cast of great experts. Go check them out today. Locked On NBA Big Board. We are back on Locked On Thunder Podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. I am your host, Rylan Stiles. You can follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at LO Thunderpod. On today's show, we're breaking down Jeremy Sochan, and now let's talk about how he fits with the Thunder. I think that his future is a starter in this league, but I really struggle to find ways that is not a high-end rotational player. I mean, you can build teams around guys who cannot shoot. You can make it work. I mean, it worked for Andre in OKC, and I know that some people have polarizing opinions about Andre, but I mean, before he got hurt with that Paul George team, I mean, that was a really, really good basketball team. So I think that Sochan is going to be a starting level player in the NBA. At worst, a very high-end player from day one, I think he starts for the Thunder. I think that your starting group is going to be, Shea, Giddey, Sochan, Chet, and then you kind of throw in Lou Dort or whoever else you want to in the mix there. But I think that he's going to be a starter really soon in the NBA. How he impacts the roster. I look at Isaiah Roby, and I just think that outside of shooting, Roby's an elite shooter. Not elite shooter, but Roby's a much better shooter than Jeremy Sochan. That's no debate. I didn't mean to say elite, but he's a much better shooter than Jeremy Sochan. I think that Roby at this stage in his career so far is going to be a better rim finisher than Sochan is out of the gate in the NBA. So that's two edges for Roby, but everything else shades towards Sochan. So I think Sochan's better defensively, better playmaker, better rebounder than Roby. So I think that this is where Roby gets traded, or maybe you do him a solid and just decline his option, let him go be a free agent somewhere. Again, I want to stress, I really think Isaiah Roby is going to be a solid rotational player in the NBA for years to come. I like Isaiah Roby. It's just a matter of number crunch and roster crunch for OKC to where maybe that future role is not in OKC for Isaiah Roby. So he's a guy you look at. Either way, the Thunder have to make up roster spots to get these rookies in here. And so somebody has to be a casualty. It's just that Roby, in this case, would make the most sense whenever you bring in a guy like Jeremy Sochan. I think that the Thunder should take him if they believe his shooting will come around and they believe that they can see a pathway for him to be a top shooter not a top shooter, but like a league average shooter in the NBA. Thunder shouldn't take him if they just see more value somewhere else. Look, can you find somebody that does things that are more valuable than defense at the 12th overall pick? Like, really, would you rather have an offensive guy in like a Johnny Davis type, or would you rather have a defensive guy in a Jeremy Sochan type at 12? Like if those two guys are on the board and available, which they might not be, but if they are, kind of what would be your philosophy there if you're building this current roster? So I think that he's more than qualified for the 12th overall pick if he's there. I really think that the Thunder should draft him. But again, if they didn't draft him, it'd just simply be because they wanted to go a different direction and had somebody else kind of valued higher than Jeremy Sochan. But to me, he's my 12th guy on my big board. I think he's right there in that range to where you can pick him 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and get a really good value play for Jeremy Sochan. I think he's the best defender in the class, one of the best defenders in the class. You cannot kind of duplicate what he does. And if he was a 30%, 35% 3-point shooter, it would be his draft stock would be much higher than it is right now. So can he become league average at 3? We'll have to wait and see, and we'll have to see kind of what he can develop into. But that is my player profile and projection on Jeremy Sochan. Let me know what you think about him in the comment section down below or on Twitter at Ryland_Styles. We're also going to have one coming out on Benedict Mathurin, and the next week features 2 very special guests that you will not want to miss. And also our guest interview with Richard Salmon at Mavs Draft on Twitter. So loaded week next week as well. Still be on the lookout today for Benedict Mathurin's player profile and projection. And until Monday, be good and be good to one another.